Okay, hello, my friends. It is Thursday, March 20th, 2025, and this is the Daily Brief. The big story today is that you have the largest strikes, both Ukrainian and Russian. The largest Ukrainian strike was on military objects and oil, and the largest Russian strike is on civilian objects in a city far, far away from the front line. We're going to get into this. Before we get going, though, how's the sound? I got a new mic. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties the other day, but put in the comments below, does it sound better or about the same or just what? Okay, so 1,400 Russians off the battlefield today, 13 tanks, 38 armored fighting vehicles, 43 artillery systems, 91 vehicles and fuel tanks. But that's not the big story. Look at this number, 899, 470. At the time that you're reading this, you're probably already over, or the time that you're watching this, rather, we're probably already over 900,000. So that's something. And March has upticked over the 1247 in February. It's now 1256. Of course, that can go up and down. That can fluctuate. This can change over time, but yeah, that's where we are right now. Okay, Defense Intelligence Update talks about, if this is the British, the Russian armed forces have likely sustained approximately 900,000 casualties, killed and wounded since invading Ukraine in 2022. Of these, it's likely that 200,000 to 250,000 Russian soldiers have been killed. President Putin and the Russian military leadership highly likely prioritize their conflict objectives over the lives of Russian soldiers. They are almost certainly prepared to tolerate continuously high casualty rates, so long as this does not negatively affect public or elite support for the war, and those losses can be replaced. Putin and the Russian leadership highly likely place significant less value on the lives of ethnic minorities, Russian citizens from impoverished regions, and that's how they're drawing them. They're incentivizing them with large payouts. Now, those large payouts won't necessarily last very long, so economically, it's not, I mean, it sounds terrible, but economically, it's not that bad for the Russians to give these extra high incentives to these people. It's pretty tragic to see. Okay, Russia launched 171 drones, of which 75 were shot down, 63 lost in location. Shot down mostly are probably eliminated. Lost in location may have still gone and done some damage. But if you do the math here, that's 171 minus 138. So there's at least 33 hitting their targets. And were they hitting last night? I'll talk about that and how they hit in just a minute. I want to show you this from Andrew Perpetua before I get to that. So here are the losses for February. First, the total losses by category. You see significantly more losses for Russia than Ukraine. This is the first month where Rubicon played a significant part of the Ukrainian losses. Rubicon was the drones from Russia. Let's look at this though. So a number of tanks. You see you see blue and you see red. So Russian losses in tanks was significantly higher. Russian losses in IFVs significantly higher. APCs, Russian losses were lower. AFVs higher. MRAPs much lower. IMVs much lower. But when you get to trucks and civilian, look at this. Trucks, like 83 Ukrainian trucks to 359 Russian trucks. 571 Ukrainian civilian vehicles to 936 civilian vehicles. Almost 2 to 1. Look at this, ATVs, 16 ATVs. Now, maybe the Ukrainians just don't have a lot of ATVs, and that's what's playing out here. But they're using a lot of all-terrain vehicles in Russia here. And then you see, these numbers are really interesting. There's another one here that I want to show you as well. So here is, this is over time, August, September, October, November, all the way out through February. Look at the color here, and I'll describe this, those that you're listening on Spotify. And thank you, by the way, for those of you that have gone out to Spotify. I see those numbers continually ticking up, and I don't know if it's just people migrating from YouTube or extra play, but I'm glad to see that more people are listening in general. Okay, so this category, the civilian is in green, right? Look at tanks in blue. Tanks have stayed pretty low over this time, but look at the civilian categories. I mean, it just goes up and up and up and up and up and up, right? And there's another one here that is going to be really interesting with that. Look at tanks from the beginning. Like tanks just keep narrowing and narrowing and narrowing from August to February. This is August of last year, not this year, all that down to February. And again, civilian vehicles it just keeps increasing. Civilians just, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if they're running out of tanks or just hoarding the tanks or can't get them to the battlefield or just what, but it's telling some picture. And, he's right here when he says this. By the way, this despite having hundreds of people telling me stop counting civilian vehicles the whole time was so important. Just counting armor does not tell you the whole story. That's exactly right. Okay. So let's talk about what the Russians hit. This was the biggest hit of the war. Kropyvnytskyi was hit with massive Russian airstrike. Kropyvnytskyi, unfortunately, does not have Patriot, SAM-T, NASAMS, or Irish-T systems. Not enough were provided by the West, so it's a sitting duck. Russia's ceasefire on infrastructure strikes is not happening. They are not acting in good faith. Remember, Putin said that he was going to, I'm ordering them to stop right now. Okay. And then it took an hour before, maybe a little bit longer than an hour before he was striking at energy infrastructure targets. Kropyvnytskyi is out here. The front lines are over here. And yeah, it's a good ways from, I mean, it's as far as from the front line, perhaps as part of the front line is from Russia proper. I mean, it's a long way. Okay, Jane Kiev, to give you an idea as to the scale of the Russian attack on Ukraine's cities taking place at this hour, here's just the past hour or so from one of the monitoring channels. This attack is only beginning. Already dozens of KAB bombs, Shahed drones, targeting purely civilian areas all over the country. Around 200 Shaheds are expected tonight. It was 171. That's not a bad guess. Hitting homes, shopping areas, residential complexes, plus KAB bomb strikes in several cities. So this is his feed, and you're just seeing things pop up. Zaporizhzhia already 15. And another one, and it gets translated from Russian into English periodically. Russia struck Kupiansk, 1 dead, 3 injured. And then he just keeps rolling the feed. The Russians have just struck Sloviansk. There are fires in the city. Like, this was the reality last night. There were a lot of UAVs flying over. I couldn't even catch the name of the whatever. It just keeps scrolling and slowly. Sloviansk now, freaks. Yeah. Okay. So you see what's going on. Okay. The central city of Kropyvnytskyi faced its biggest drone attack since Russia's full-scale invasion. According to local officials, at least 10 people were injured after it was targeted by some 20 drones of the night in March 19th to 20th. Now, this is Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Liberty. Now, they're supposed to have been turned off. I was watching an interview with the boss of this media group last night, and I said, listen, guys, please continue coming to work. Do what you can. We'll try to get this resolved. But they're still working, and it's my understanding, not getting paid in the meantime.
Кропивницький пережив наймасованішу атаку за весь час повномасштабної війни. Російська армія запустила по місту понад 20 безпілотників.
So he's doing this reporting here. Russian army attacked the city with over 20 drones. They targeted residential housing blocks. The people were injured. And he's interviewing an older lady here. If you don't understand Ukrainian, that's fine. Just hear her voice.
Воно летіло красне таке, а потім як гепне. А тоді вже геть вікна, всі 3 вікна, всі стекла були в кімнаті. Хорошо, що я не стала у коридорі, якби 2 стіни, бо там на дверях більше дзеркало було.
You can feel the pain in her voice. Last night, Russia's T attack on the residential areas of Ukraine, city of Kropyvnytskyi, was the largest in its history, attacking both with drones and guided bombs. Now, there is a Ukrainian attack, and the Ukrainian attack was on Engels district, not the airfield itself proper, but the state of emergency in Engels district. A state of emergency has been declared in Engels Saratov region following a massive Ukrainian attack. Governor called it the largest attack since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So, but they're attacking an airfield. They're actually the ammo depot near the airfield. Ukrainian special forces, in coordination with other defense units, struck Engels Air Base in Russia's Saratov region on the night of March 20th. Fires, explosions, secondary detonations were reported. Secondary detonations mean that there is something that blew up and then that caused other things to blow up. There's no official confirmation yet that the airfield was the actual target, but they were going after depots, missile depots. X-101 missile depot destroyed in Engels. Missiles were being prepared for an attack on Ukraine. Analysts noted that such depots typically store between 30 to 70 missiles. After the strike, debris was scattered within a 5-kilometer radius, increasing the likelihood of damage to aircraft stationed at the airfield. Preliminary reports indicated that 3 Tu-95MS and Tu-160 bombers were present at the base. Ukraine's intelligence struck multiple targets in Russian-occupied Crimea over the past few days, including air defense systems, the tugboat Fyodor Urapin, and an Mi-8 helicopter. So it's not just over in Russia proper, but also in Crimea, where things have gotten. This wasn't last night. This was the last couple days. Now, let's turn to oil refineries, oil depots. Now burning well into its second day, Russian oil infrastructure in Krasnodar region is still on fire. And in the Yatisk oil refinery in the Kemerovo region, over 3,200 kilometers from Ukraine, that's 2,000 miles, is on fire. And the Kavkazskaya, I can't pronounce that, Kavkazskaya oil pumping station keeps burning as of tonight. This was hit yesterday. And I was looking at some of these oil strikes, for example, and I was thinking, wait a minute. Yesterday, I reported that Zelensky halts energy strikes. Zelensky agreed to stop attacks on Russian energy assets during a call with Trump, an initial step in Trump's push to end the war. Zelensky communicated that message to Trump in a call on Wednesday. So what's going on? How is it? Is he just breaking his word too? Well, so Russia, here's the ISW, Russia and Ukraine have not finalized the long-range strike ceasefire. Now, it looks like it would be. Now, Putin's deliberately creating confusion regarding the ceasefire timing and details, attempting to blame Ukraine for violations before a formal implementation. But Putin went out of his way to say, I'm calling it off right now, and he instructed his guy, call off the airstrikes, we're going to stop. Like, made a big production of that. Zelensky, to my knowledge, has not done that kind of thing. Here's the ISW again. Russia and Ukraine have not formally announced the implementation of the temporary long-range strike ceasefire. Official American, Ukrainian, and Russian statements indicate that parties to the ceasefire have not yet finalized the details of the agreement. Putin is adding confusion about the timing and details of the ceasefire in an attempt to falsely blame Ukraine for violating the ceasefire before both countries have officially implemented the agreement, which is so odd because Putin already violated this, if that was the case, like an hour after okay. So the Kremlin continues to contradict Trump's report of his call with Putin on March 18th. The Kremlin continues to demand that Ukraine cede Ukrainian territory that Russia does not currently occupy in order to set conditions to make further territorial demands. Okay, a little bit about the battlefield, just a very little bit right now. In the Pokrovsk direction, 44 assaults. We use Pokrovsk as a barometer because we know that that's what they want most. 44 assaults is reasonably high, moderately high, and that correlates with the moderately high 1,400 figure that we saw at the very beginning. Okay, this was interesting. A Ukrainian construction worker turned soldier, his name is Hornet, downs a Russian Su-25 jet with a single shot from a man-pads. His name is Pavlo. He's 27. He was building homes, and he swapped that for defending them. This was my chance, he said, as enemy drones circled overhead. I'm sure that couldn't have been pleasant, knowing drones were around, and drones are as lethal as they are. Speaking of drones, there's this weird image that I saw, and this is all these wires. Those aren't power lines. These are fiber optic cables entangled in trees from fiber optic drones. Like they're just like left behind or got snagged. And yeah, that's wow. That's just amazing. Okay. Another batch of Russian UAVs has been destroyed, and I just never tire of seeing video like this where, a little FPV drone is going after a larger Russian drone, a Lancet or something else, and they just keep smashing them, and that's great to see. Okay. I didn't talk about this yesterday. This happened yesterday, but it happened after the daily brief in Russia. Kursk, they weighed me at about 70 kilograms. And what was your weight before captivity? 90 kilograms. It's a big difference. 197 Ukrainian defenders returned from Russian captivity yesterday, including 22 seriously ill and wounded. Some of them spent almost 3 years in captivity. So far, in total, 4,328 military, civilians, and foreigners have been released from Russian captivity. And so we're seeing folks like this talk about it. I'm very happy. I want to say a lot of things, but there's a lump in my throat, says one of the returned POWs. I'm sure he's happy to be home out of captivity. I'm sincerely grateful to all of you for your warm welcome. And then we see images like this gentleman saying, "Mom, I'm home." He's on the phone for the first time on Ukrainian soil. "Where are you?" "I'm exchanged, Mom." "Mommy, we're exchanged." "He's home right now. I'm in Ukraine." Yeah. And then Anton Gerashenko posted this: "Our defenders are home. I have tears in my eyes watching this as these defenders are coming home. They're being issued a Ukrainian flag. They're running for the flag. Can't wait to be back home away from captivity." It's very good to see. Finally, everything will be Ukraine, says this POW who just returned from captivity. 2 years and 8 months, 19 days he spent in captivity. "When did you find out that you were finally being exchanged and that you were going home?" "On the 18th of March, I was in my cell duty." And he says, "We flew on 3 planes in Gomel, Belarus, where we had already been exchanged. I was hoping that since we were being transported by planes, I didn't know for sure, but we are very happy." I'm sure he's very happy. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for today. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.